Want to fund some big investments of your own? Want to use other people's money to do it in a totally win-win manner? There's an absolute ocean of capital available in today's market that's hidden in plain view. I'm Bryan Ellis. I'll tell you how to find and access that capital to fund your own investment opportunities right now in episode number 97.
You're listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio, America's only podcast exclusively for affluent, self-directed investors, where each day of the week you receive innovative investment strategy and deadly accurate market analysis that's untainted by Wall Street and unblemished by government propaganda, all in 7 minutes or less. Coming to you now from iTunes, Stitcher, and SDIRadio.com, here's your host, Bryan Ellis.
Yes, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Hello again, my friends, the coveted members of SDI Nation. Welcome to another exciting excursion into investment excellence. Quickly, the next passive property flipping summit, where I invite a small group of qualified investors to meet me and my team and to learn how they can passively profit from our highly lucrative real estate flipping operation. Well, that's coming up very soon, and it's almost full, as in 90%. If you've got at least $75,000 in liquid capital and would like to learn more, stop by s3flip.com right now. Again, that's s3flip.com. All right, my friends, basically every episode of this show has been targeted to the person who has investment capital, who wants to invest in simple, safe, and strong investment opportunities, and who may have some general ideas about how to deploy that capital. But most of you don't have really specific ideas about how to invest your money. Maybe you like the idea of real estate or private lending, for example, and you want to go in that direction. Or many of you know what you don't like. You don't like the uncertainty of the stock market, and you simply want to replace that with something that makes more sense. But there's another group of you listening to this podcast who are a little bit different, and today I'd like to speak to you. You also have investment capital, and you have some very specific ideas about the types of investments you'd like to complete. You probably also have some experience as an investor yourself or as an investment operator in the asset class that you're targeting. You may even have a specific piece of real estate you'd like to buy or a specific business you'd like to fund, but there's one problem. While you do have investment capital, you don't have enough. And today, my friends, I'm going to teach you how to solve that problem. I'm going to show you where there's an ocean of capital just waiting to be tapped and solve your investment funding needs forever. What I'm about to tell you is very real and absolutely can work for you, but there's an assumption I'm going to make before I tell you this process. You absolutely must have a real investment opportunity that makes real sense. It must be explainable. It must show respect for the value of the capital your investors will choose to risk on you. And you really better deliver to them a strong return on investment. In other words, you've got to remember the core value of self-directed investors, which is to respect your own capital. But you have to respect the capital you're using even more when that capital doesn't actually belong to you. It's a solemn, serious thing to accept money from other investors. So don't take this lightly, and don't use what I'm about to teach you to promote some half-cocked, ill-conceived investment. You will not get a chance to fix the reputation you'll destroy if you're not deeply, profoundly respectful of the capital provided to you by your investors. So what to do? Well, today's market is awash in liquid capital. I sat on a panel last night at a Real Estate Investor Association meeting where we addressed the topic of how to find funding for real estate transactions. And while each of the panel members had slightly different ideas about how to access that ocean of capital, we all agreed on one thing. There's a lot of it out there, and it's just waiting to be deployed. So here are the 3 things you need to understand to find all the money you'll ever need. First, understand that there are tens of billions of dollars right now sitting in self-directed retirement accounts. Self-directed IRAs and 401ks, the kind of account you and I discuss regularly. In fact, there are nearly a dozen separate self-directed account custodians who each claim to have at least $2 billion in assets under management. So that's a huge amount of capital in those accounts right now. Second, those accounts are useful for only one thing to the people who own them, to make investments. In other words, the owners of these accounts don't have the option to use that money to buy a new home or a brand new car or an exotic vacation or to pay for a wedding or anything else like that. They have to use their money for investments for retirement. So there's relatively little competition for their capital. You just have to be able to convince those people that your investment is better than their other alternatives. And third, a huge percentage of those accounts are funded, meaning that there's money sitting there in the account, but nothing is being done with that money. Some or all of the money in those accounts is just sitting. Why? For all the benefits of self-directed retirement accounts, the reality is that they're inherently more complicated to use, and so many of them are funded but completely unused. This is a beautiful opportunity, a large volume of money sitting in an account that can only be used for investment purposes and which is sitting wholly unused and fully available. That is a beautiful scenario if you're looking to fund an investment using other people's capital. So how do you find these people? Well, if you happen to be an expert on these things, you can start a podcast and quickly become America's leading voice to the self-directed investor community. But as it turns out, yours truly, Bryan Ellis, already owns that post. So what do you do instead? Do this. Step 1, get a list of self-directed account custodians, the names of the firms. Or better yet, just go over to sdiradio.com/custodians, where I've made a handy list for you. Step number 2, take a visit to your local county courthouse where the real estate records are kept. Step 3, search the deed and mortgage records for anything containing the name of any of the account custodians. And for anything that you find where they're a deed to property or a mortgage, anything like that, collect the names and addresses of the owners that appear on those documents. What you're doing here, you see, is you're getting a list of people who already have self-directed accounts and who are already using them to own real estate or to make loans. This works because when one makes a purchase through a self-directed retirement account, the asset should always be titled in the name of the custodian and for the benefit of the person who owns the account. But that means that right there in the public record is an indication of every property or loan that has been transacted through a self-directed retirement account. And step 4 is contact those people. Send them a postcard. Do something to get their attention and share the fact that you have an investment that might make sense for them. Help them to understand the potential for getting involved in your investment opportunity and tell them how to reach out to you if they're interested. But be forewarned, there are legal considerations. Talk to a securities lawyer before you do this because there are rules you must follow. My friends, invest wisely today, particularly if you're using other people's money, and live well forever.
Thank you for listening to Self-Directed Investor Radio with Bryan Ellis. Don't miss a single episode. Be sure to subscribe to Self-Directed Investor Radio right now on iTunes, on Stitcher, and at SDIRadio.com. Your feedback is always welcomed via email at feedback@SDIRadio.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only and is not intended as legal or professional advice for your situation. Content is the property of the Self-Directed Investor Society.